Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for. Bruce, got your mic there.
Yep.
I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins and Bruce McCurdy. Hey, guys.
Morning, gents.
Hello, hello.
How's everybody today?
Starting to get on pins and needles a little bit.
Must win Sunday.
Yeah. Well, this is an unplanned podcast that we're doing here. And we're only doing it because the Oilers have made really significant lineup changes, much more than I expected them to make for the game coming up. So we're going to go through those lineup changes. We're live now, so I'm just going to call up this podcast and send it out to people. But I would say that the general theme is speed over grit. So what we'll do is go through each of the lines and defense pairings and get your comments. And as you're talking, I will tweet this out. Okay, the first line, I'll just give you the first two lines and we can talk about those as a group. First line, Draisaitl, McDavid, Puljujärvi, same as last game. But the second line is dramatically different. We have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Ryan McLeod, and Zack Kassian, who I thought might be taking a seat after last game, on the second line. Kurt, what is your take on just those specific changes to start with?
Well, the first line, as you say, the same as last game. It's their best line. It's the best trio they can put together. Given the task at hand, I think they're smart to leave it together. That's my opinion. The second line, I think Winnipeg has trapped the neutral zone brilliantly. I think more speed is required to break that trap, and a trio of Nugent-Hopkins, McLeod, and Kassian has the quickness and the size to do so. Big step up in weight class for Ryan McLeod, but we saw one audition late in the regular season with him at 2C, and I suspect that was with this very situation in mind. It's a bit of a roll of the dice, but I get the reasoning why.
Bruce?
Yeah, a huge roll of the dice for sure with a lightly tried rookie at center at what they're listing at 2C. I mean, I'll be more interested to see how they actually split up the ice time when it comes to actual goal time, and promoting Zack Kassian to the second line wing. Based on his play really all season long, that's a bit of a surprise to me. I was looking at Kassian with a bit of a critical eye yesterday, noting that of his 29 games, 19 of them he didn't even have a shot on net this year. And in his last 14 games, basically half of his games, he has no points and no plus games in that entire time. Now, mind you, he has not had the cherry line mates, but in this case, with Nuge on his line, at least listed by I think Bob Stauffer, that listed them in that order as the second line. I guess the idea is that the Oilers are going to want to get in and win the speed and forecheck game, and they want Kassian to go in and loosen up some pucks. And if he brings his A game, great. I mean, he's certainly fully capable of doing that sort of thing, but we just haven't seen a whole lot of it out of him.
I think it also speaks volumes that they have more confidence with Ryan McLeod at second line center than Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Nuge has not been able to offensively drive a line, and I think this is reflective of that.
Yeah, it's really disappointing, honestly, that that's the case. I'm a little surprised that they haven't gone back to the 81% solution. The line of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Kailer Yamamoto as the top line, which would allow them to have the fourth line we're going to get to is a little small in size, and I think the line of Kahun, Nugent-Hopkins, and Yamamoto last game had almost I just don't get that move from day one. I too small to succeed in the playoffs, and I see a fourth line that might be trending in that way again. So I think if you would bump Puljujärvi down to one of the other lines, second line, you have a big player who can help drive play in that way on your second line. So I don't know what's with Yamamoto that they don't trust him in that role after such incredible success. 81% goals for percentage of Yamamoto, Draisaitl, and McDavid in the regular season. 13 goals for, 3 against. I think I would have liked to seen them go to that line. It was their most successful line. So this is the second year in a row that the single most successful line in the regular season, we're not seeing it in the playoffs. I don't really get that. Although it's not like I hate this top line. I love this top line. It's a fantastic top line. It came very close to scoring last game on a number of plays. Connor McDavid has yet to bring his A game in this series. I think it's fair to say there's been a ton of interference by the Winnipeg Jets. He's got to keep fighting through it until he falls down and forces a call. And all the Oilers forwards have got to keep fighting through that interference now until they fall down and force the refs to start making calls, because the interference is stopping the Oilers getting in on the forecheck. So that's why we're seeing, I think, McLeod on the second line. He's a big body who can move his feet. That's why we're seeing Kassian in this game not taken out as opposed to Neal and Chiasson, because when you get interfered with, you have to fight through it. And what was happening so far is guys like Kassian and Neal who have been interfered with, they're then at a dead stop and they can't get going fast enough. Keeping Kassian in, putting McLeod up there in a more prominent, they get interfered with. They fight through it, but they're fast enough then maybe to get in on the forecheck, and so I hope to see that. Want to go to the second line, the third line now, gents, which is Devin Shore, Jujhar Khaira, and Josh Archibald. Thoughts?
Well, we've seen this lots in the regular season, and to my eye, when these guys were a trio, they were effective in terms of trying to punch through the trap in the neutral zone, in terms of an aggressive forecheck on the Jets' defense that the Oilers still have not effectively gotten to in this series. I have zero issue with that trio. Like you, David, my eyebrow is raised a bit on that fourth line. But this third line, to me, that's pretty functional, and I can see that having a positive impact.
Yeah, this line is actually tried and true. We've seen this line playing in a number of games, 14, 15, 16, I call them, and there's some people call it the Sweet Cara line, and I think it's got a few different monikers. But what they have in common is that there's 3 pretty aggressive players. Typically, when they play together, all 3 of them have multiple hits, and they're playing a physical 2-way game. All 3 of them are penalty killers, and all 3 are decently experienced pros at this point in their career. So there's I think as third line goes, it's solid enough. Don't expect a bunch of goals from them, but don't expect Winnipeg to score a bunch of goals when they're out there either.
Yeah, at the start of this series, I was a little surprised that they didn't go to this line, considering how effective it had been. I wasn't saying it was a mistake, because I think they needed to try to get Kassian in, because what he can bring if he ever gets his game together again is something that is very useful in the playoffs. Ferocity, hitting, that X factor of intimidation in the playoffs. He hasn't come close to bringing it yet in the first 2 games, but I can see why they wanted to get Kassian in. So good to see this line back together again. It was very effective, I thought, as a checking line. With Nikolai Ehlers back in for the Winnipeg Jets, they also they're going to need a checking line that can match up against their top 2 lines. So they have that now in this line. If this line's out there against, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, if this line is out there against one of those top 2 lines of Winnipeg. So you need lines that can handle that. And I think so the Oilers' top line and this third line can do that. I'm going to be a little bit worried about the second line and the fourth line defensively. McLeod has held his own on defense, but this is he hasn't stepped up in the playoffs yet. So can he hold his own against when he's out there in those moments against those top 2 Winnipeg lines? I'm a little bit worried about that, and And with the fourth line, the same thing: Ennis, Haas, and Yamamoto. This is Haas is a very good defensive hockey player, fortunately. And Yamamoto is as well. So they have 2 very high IQ defensive players together. So I'm not so worried about these guys defensively as I was with Kahun, Nugent Hopkins, and Yamamoto. Nuge struggles on defense as a center a lot, and Kahun's been okay, but so this line I think can get by defensively. Not that worried about it. I'm a little worried that they won't be able to fight through the forecheck and whether they can get anything going on the attack. Bruce, what do you think?
Yeah, well, Winnipeg's got the last change, which is going to be a factor in terms of how well can Dave Tippett hide his lines. Um, I'm a little bit concerned about that McLeod Kassian combination on the defensive side of the puck. And McLeod, I think we're all seeing him good, but the brutal facts say that he was on the ice for both winning goals in the 2 games to date, and he just made a change, and not a very good one, in the third one.
Kurt, any thoughts on the fourth line?
I think the fourth line speaks to the roster issues and the cap complications that Ken Holland has faced. We talked, the three of us at the outset of the series, how one of the Jets' advantages was forward depth. We're seeing it in these 2 sets of lines today. All of those guys in that fourth line are good pros. I'm with you, David and Bruce. They serve a purpose. They all contribute, but it's a step down. And until Ken Holland has more cap space to better populate this roster, this is what we got. And I know that's damn faint praise, but that's how I see it.
You know, the other third line that really worked well in the regular season was Ennis, Kara, and Archibald. And I'm a little bit curious about, that would have been okay with me too. I'm really good with the third line, so this isn't a criticism of the coaches, but like an alternate third line, you might have had Ennis, Kara, and Archibald. It might have been a bit more scoring attack thrust, playmaking with Ennis as opposed to Shore. The other alternative lineup you might have had, again, Yamamoto with Draisaitl and McDavid, and Puljujarvi with McLeod and Nugent Hopkins. Bumping down Kassian, I guess, to the fourth line. You might have had a fourth line of Kassian, Haas, and Shore. Kassian is a suspect defensive player at this point, in my view. So, yeah, I'm worried about that second line defensively, honestly. Like I think the fourth line's going to be able to hang in there defensively at least, even if it doesn't get much going on the attack. They might though. They've got some good attackers, some fast attackers, but the second line defensively, Nugent Hopkins on the wing. Nugent Hopkins is a very solid defensive left winger. I will say that. McLeod, he's a rookie, and then Kassian, who is a major question mark. Just all around, I guess they're really putting they're rolling the dice on Zack Kassian right now and saying, "Can you get it done, man?" Same with Nugent Hopkins, who's had a not an inspiring playoff at all. This is the something to prove line, I guess. With McLeod in the same boat, just because he's a rookie. Everyone out there is a major question mark to me, and plenty to show yet.
And my issue with Kailer Yamamoto is I'm just not sure he has the physical stature to be an effective playoff performer. He's game. He goes for it. I have zero issue with his effort, but he's been taking a beating out there and not getting much done in the process. At some point, you have to wonder if a guy that's 150 pounds soaking wet can play this man's game at this time of year. Remains to be seen in my eye.
Bruce, any final thoughts on the forward lines?
Well, that fourth line is tiny. Gaetan Haas is the big guy on that line at 181 pounds. He's 20 pounds heavier than Tyler Ennis and 28 pounds heavier than Kailer Yamamoto. I mean, literally the three of them average 165 pounds a man. And I'm not sure how that's going to stand up. I mean, they got quickness, obviously, all of them. And that quickness is going to have to be their key to success, because if it ever gets down to a pounding it out along the walls kind of game, I do think all three are gamers, I'll say that, and they're going to need to be. They're going to have to bring that competitiveness and that willingness to battle, and at that, they're going to be playing against guys that are competing with them too, that are probably going to outweigh them by 30 to 50 pounds. So it's going to be a real challenge for that as a trio. It'll be interesting to watch.
I think a quick move they could make if it's not working, just move Kassian to the fourth line and Yamamoto to the second line. Have McLeod, who is a bigger player in the middle. Haas is solid in the middle and can cover for whatever mistakes Kassian makes defensively. And then you get that size on the fourth line. So that might be a quick move. And maybe even before game time, who knows? They'll probably go with these lines. They won't reconsider before game time. They've been thinking this through. They've obviously thought it through, the fourth line, right? They have some reason for doing this. So let's think with the coaches here for a second. Why that fourth line? Well, Kurt, you're suggesting it might be the best of all the bad alternatives. So I think Ennis is in, as opposed to Chiasson or Neal, because they just need more speed. They've got to get faster, and so to beat that clogging play of the Winnipeg Jets in the neutral zone. So Ennis is in there. And I think they're trusting this fourth line because they think they can get zero out of this line. They're thinking maybe we're not going to get anything on the attack from this line, but they're probably thinking we can get zero against us with Haas, who's a really good defensive player, and Yamamoto, who's solid in his own zone as well. So we're not this will be zero, and we're hoping for +1 with the top two lines somehow.
Well, overall, I do think this lineup is quicker. I think that's for sure. I think David said it. They arguably took out their 3 slowest forwards and put in 3 way faster forwards. I buy that. That's a good argument. With Ennis, he's not fast, but he's quick.
Yeah.
And so I do think he adds something on that side. Just the other quick thought, I'm a little surprised both Neal and Chiasson came out. I expected one or the other and thought Ennis would be the guy coming in. But this all but guarantees that Jesse Puljujarvi will be net front on the power play, provided, as my good friend Bruce said, provided we get a power play.
Yeah, I'm okay with Chiasson. Like, I like Chiasson on the power play, but Puljujarvi is really strong on the power play. So I don't see that as I'm good with that. What about you, Bruce?
I see the similar strategy that Edmonton used in Winnipeg back after they had that enforced week off after the Vancouver series got canceled, and they went into Winnipeg and they beat the Jets 3-0, and they loaded up the McDavid Draisaitl on a single line, and they scored 1 goal at even strength, 2 on the power play. And then the whole team shut down the Jets and allowed nothing against. So the bottom 9 just went 0-0, and they relied on the top line and the power play to do the damage. And really, that same formula was in effect in Game 2, and it would have worked if the top line had produced any goals at all, or if they'd been able to produce one on the power play. Hopefully, they'll create and draw some penalties tonight and create a few power plays and give that unit a chance to contribute a little bit more, because Edmonton's team success for the last 2 years has significantly been built on special teams, and when the refs put their whistle away, that does not help the Oilers.
I just want to stress, I know there's a lot of negativity right now in oil country, a lot of people down on the team and down on this and that and the other thing. By our count, Bruce, the Oilers have outchanced on grade A chances the Winnipeg Jets. And I think our count definitely aligns with what other people who count scoring chances. It's consistent across the board. The Oilers have had more grade A chances than the Jets in this series. The Oilers they've got, 1 goal? They've got 1 goal. They should probably have 5 or 6 goals based on the scoring chances that they've been getting. And if they had 5 or 6 goals, this series would at least be tied 1 game each. It's not like the Oilers have been badly outplayed, and I want to contrast their play in this playoffs compared to last year. Last year, the goaltending was super iffy, and the defensive play was extremely iffy as well. All the defensemen, I thought, every single one of them struggled in some way, and players like Nurse and Clefbaum and Larson and Bear really struggled. This year, the top 4, other than Tyson Barrie on defense, I think has been really good. And so the goaltending's been good. And the forward lines have been creating chances. They just can't. The story of the series has been Connor Hellebuck. He so far has scored. And the Oilers have not been able to get that puck top shelf where Mama keeps the cookies. They haven't been able to go high on him. They haven't had time and space. I think the Winnipeg Jets have played a masterful, disciplined defensive game. and I'm going to give them credit for that. This has been a strong where the Oilers have had grade A chances. They've had some really 5-alarm chances, but they just haven't had those moments where they can have that time and space to get the puck, place the puck where they need to place it. So.
Yeah, I made the point in my 9 Things column this morning, and it's a good reminder. I think the margins have been razor thin in this series. Both games have been 1-goal games if you eliminate the empty netters. The Oilers have outshot the Jets in both games. They've outchanced them in both games. When you look at zone exits and zone entries, Edmonton is ahead in those metrics as well. But the Jets, I give them credit. I said at the outset, I really respect this team, and here's why. They're a good hockey team. I never thought they were going to roll over and die against these Oilers, far from it. And Connor Hellebuck has looked like a Vezina Trophy winner.
A couple comments here from JT. I agree, David, but it is a must-win tonight. Doesn't matter if we have been slightly outplaying them. And from Steven, outchancing is not winning. Sorry, but that's facts. Chances won't win the series. Goals and wins will. And of course these are completely fair comments. That's completely fair and accurate. You know, the reason that we're talking about this and tracking grade A chances isn't to make excuses for the team. You'll see actually when the Oilers were winning during the season and they were getting outchanced, I was constantly bringing that up as a sign, like something's not, like they're winning here, but they're not fully functioning. Things aren't going well. We bring up the grade A chances because we think it's just a good metric to say, you know, goals often come down to puck luck. That's the truth. You watch enough scoring chances and you'll see like the difference between a goal and a grade A chance is very small. Just like a millimeters or centimeters of placing the shin pad or the stick or timing issues. It's such a small thing. So if you want to get just a better sense of the real level of performance, not necessarily how many goals they're scoring, you look at the grade A chances to get an idea of how your team's doing, how your team's tracking. Is it outplaying the opposition or not? And that's what it is, and that's all it is. It's not wins and losses, and it's not goals for and against, unfortunately. If it were, the Oilers would be ahead in this series, and they're not. And
yeah, I don't think any of the three of us are saying the Oilers deserve to be ahead 2-0. I think the Jets are full value for the 2 wins.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is it's been damn close, and it has been by practically every metric.
I'd say, 1-1 is fair. If one of the teams was to be ahead 2-0 based on merit, it might be the Oilers, frankly. I mean, I'm looking at the shot metrics here at Natural Stat Trick. They have Oilers with 59% of the shot attempts, 55% of the shots, 59% of the scoring chances, and 63% of the high danger scoring chances. We ourselves have it at 22-17 Oilers for the grade A scoring chances. That's what, 56, 57%. Like the Oilers have had the better of it. And for expected goals, I mean, here's a stat for you from a Natural Stat Trick. They had, game one was basically a saw-off. But game two was in favor of the Oilers. And overall, the Oilers have was 5.83 to 5.14. Now, when we start showing on the big scoreboard numbers with decimal points in them, that's when I'm going to be a true believer in expected goals. But it's just trying to parse who's generated the better shots from the better places. And it's been the Oilers. And clearly, the Oilers, if they're supposed to give up over 5 expected goals and they've only really given up 3, you can't point any fingers at the net mining. But it's just the inability to produce. They should have scored 6 goals and they got 1.
This is actually what scares me in this series is that the expected goals are close. Excuse me, the Winnipeg Jets have scored about their number of expected goals, and the scary thing is Mike Smith has really played well, but there's no margin for error here with the Oilers. If Mike Smith has So I think the Oilers this series should be tied 1-1, or as you suggest, Bruce, the Oilers should be up 2-0. I'd say 1-1 is a good saw-off with the expected goals, and from our scoring chances, that's what it looks like to me as well. 1-1 would be, but we're down. The Oilers are down 2-0, and now even though the Oilers have been the slightly better team, just slightly better though, not a lot better. So if Mike Smith stumbles at all, this series is over, and that's what scares me because I think the Oilers can come back and win this series based on the flow of play. They have been the slightly better team. I've got confidence in this group of players to beat the Winnipeg Jets on any given night. I think they're the slight favorite, but just slight. And again, with Mike's, if the goalie lets in one or two weak ones, this is tonight, for instance, this series is over. So that's the kind of the heartbreaking thing about the hockey gourds. When the puck luck is against you, it has been against you. You get in a deep hole, and it's really, really hard to dig yourself out.
Yeah, well, the coin, I mean, if the coin is weighted at all for one team, it's only slightly weighted.
Yeah,
And it literally, most games, the better team would be what, a 1-goal favorite over the underdog,
yeah,
if that, probably less than that. And you get one play like some guy making a deflection from the middle of the slot out of the air, and it hits the goal post in the net cam, and it takes him a minute and a half to figure out the damn thing went in the net one game. And the next game, the guy with his back turned to the play throws his hands up in the air and makes a miraculous shot block of what looked to be a certain goal. And that's the margin. I mean, it's slivers. The margin are slivers, and the Jets got both of those particular bounces, and they won both of those particular games by a goal. And, I mean, it's the Oilers' turn to get a bounce, you might say, but they haven't played that game yet, and they haven't gotten that bounce yet. But it's high time they got a bounce. But it's also, at some point you want to take command of a game and just flat out win it by being the convincingly the better team. And frankly, the Oilers did that in all three of their last three visits to Winnipeg, which they won by by scores of 3-0, 6-1, and 3-1. And they were the better team in all of those games, and they're going to need a performance on that level, preferably tonight.
slivers to the heart. I guess slivers to the heart can kill you as much as a knife to the heart. Is the truth. Like and as we all know, slivers hurt. They hurt like hell, and these ones really, really have been hurting. Yeah, I don't know. Like that overtime goal. Like I was watching again and thinking, like, could Kulikov have just been a little closer? But he shoulder checked. He looked for the vet. Like there was another player coming into the play. He had to make sure that player was covered. Like he did. I think he kind of did everything right, and it was just an outside shot at net that got in the net somehow through. Tip said it was Tippett said it was tipped off Larson, and so it goes through Kulikov, tips off Larson maybe and into the net. Brutal.
The end zone camera showed pretty clearly it went through both Kulikov's legs and Larson's legs. And whether it brushed Larson and changed direction slightly, I'm not sure Smith ever saw it until it emerged out the other side of Larson about 8 feet in front of him. What Larson was doing there, I'm not entirely sure, because he didn't really have a man, or he was just kind of floating back to the net front, but he wound up being a lot better door than a window. Bam.
Steven says, maybe we'll get lucky and get the same treatment from the refs the Leafs got last night, eh?
6 power plays in a row, eh?
Murdoch Davis says,
Hey,
Smith.
Murdoch.
Hey, Murdoch. Smith has to play back-to-back. Tomorrow night might well be tough on him. Yeah, I wonder if we'll see Hellebuck back. Like, a lot depends on tonight, right? Like, if a goalie plays well tonight, I expect we will see him in a do-or-die game for the Oilers, at least tomorrow night. Again, another one, like they all are for the Oilers right now. The Jets have a little buffer here, but I do think we'll see Smith back to back. So maybe he'll just sleep in a big bucket of ice or something like that. And in what is that, a cryogenic chamber? Cryogenic chamber. The Daryl Cates will fly one of those in, and Smith will be bedding down in that.
Hyperbaric chamber. Cryogenic's the one where they cut your head off. They cut your head off and they leave it in ice for 10,000 years while we figure out the technology.
Now there's playing the game.
They do 10,000 years and they can finally come up with the right lines to beat the Winnipeg Jets. I think they are just throwing darts at the board with their lines on a certain level right now. So.
Here's a concern with back-to-back. Through 2 games, Darnell Nurse 61 minutes, Leon Draisaitl 55 minutes, Tyson Barrie 53 minutes, Connor McDavid 50 minutes. No Jet has played 50 minutes, and only one has played as many as 45, Josh Morrissey. And I don't think that'll be an energy problem tonight for the Oilers, but it might be tomorrow. And heaven help them if they, if tonight's game happens to go into any kind of lengthy overtime or something. Tomorrow's game could be an absolute brutal. Well, it'd be brutal for both teams, but especially the team that's maybe logged a few more minutes over the course of games 1 through 3. So,
All right, let's go through the defense pairings now.
mhm.
And they have made there's we don't have to go through pairing by pairing necessarily, although we can comment on each one. They've made one major change. They've moved Ethan Bear to play with Darnell Nurse, it looks like, and Tyson Barrie down to play with Slater Cuckoo. And this is a move that they often make uh, late in a game when they're protecting a 1 goal lead. They'll move Ethan Bear up in the final 5 or 10 minutes to play with Nurse, and then move Barrie down, or they'll bench Barrie altogether and go with Larson on the second pairing with whoever he's with, and then Bear and Nurse on the top pairing. I I think based on the play of Tyson Barrie in the first 2 games, this is absolutely essential. They We're lucky. Tyson Barrie actually is kind of lucky right now that the whole ugly laser focus of oil country isn't focused on him right now, based on the number of massive mistakes that he's made, which have led to the most glaring, frightening scoring chances against the Edmonton Oilers. In the first game, uh, he missed the puck near the end of the first period on a shot, and the Jets streaked down. And how Mark Scheifele missed the open net on that 3-on-1, I don't know. But and then in the second game, off that face-off where he makes a bumbling play, um, Kyle Connor has 2 wide open chances in front of the net where Mike Smith somehow makes the saves. And those are just the 2 worst. He leads. There's just been He's had a tough playoff. So I had heard he was a playoff performer. You just can't have that from a veteran defenseman. He ended up the season making a lot of plays like this, kind of leaking 2-on-1 chances, and it hasn't ended in the playoffs. So you just had to move Ethan Bear up there. I don't see any other alternative at this point. And I like Tyson Barrie on the attack a lot, but this has been a concern.
Back when they signed Tyson Barrie, I wrote a column here at the Cult of Hockey, and I said, what Tyson Barrie is an elite first pairing attacker and a third pairing defender. And I think that's exactly what he is. And that's not a criticism, really. I think that's largely what Barrie has been throughout his career. And the third pairing, I think he's a little less exposed defensively, and he's probably going to get a slightly easier matchup down there as well. Which may help create a few chances out of those shifts. And from the Ethan Bear standpoint, he's not as good of an attacker as Tyson Barrie, but he moves the puck very well. And so I have zero issue with him moving up with Darnell.
The issue with Barrie on the third pairing is that he no longer has the quality of teammate that he does on the top pairing. I mean, Barry's best attribute is his ability to be, part of the 5-man unit where he joins and is as part of the attack. Well, if he's joining McDavid and or Draisaitl in the attack, that's one thing. If he's joining, Jujhar Khaira, Josh Archibald, and Devin Shore, you know, he can make all the plays he wants. The chances of one of those guys putting the puck in the net isn't that high, and I'm just worried that it suppresses his strengths at even strength. And the Oilers had the same problem. I mean, they used to have this problem with Justin Schultz, right? Where the heck do you put the guy? You want to play him with skill, but when you put him with your skill, you expose him to the best players on the other team, and then you expose yourselves at the back end a little bit. So I'm not sure that there's a perfect solution, other than I'm pretty sure they'll leave Barrie on the first power play unit, where he's done a pretty fine job throughout the year, and we'll see how it plays. And we also see how, and this is key to both forwards and defense, how does Coach Tippett respond to the score in the game? If the Oilers take the lead, he does one thing. If the Jets take the lead, he does something different. And how will he choose to redeploy his forces as the game dictates?
Your point on Barrie playing with the bottom six is a good one, and I'd say back. I wonder how much Gaetan Haas will play in this game,
Yep.
and particularly based on the score and game situations, I can see McDavid and Draisaitl rotating between those two wingers on that fourth line.
I think that Barrie Bruce might have some success. When you think of him on the attack, you know what he's good at is puck comes back to him at the blue line. One of the things he's good at, puck comes back to him at the blue line. He makes a move and gets a shot on net. And if you know Kara, Archibald, Yamamoto, Haas, they can all crash the net and screen the goalie as well as anybody. So he's more effective on the breakout with these better players, but on the attack, putting at even strength, putting the puck on net, he can still do that with these other kind of crash the net, and that's the whole strategy. Is going to be whole strategy: puck to the point, put it on net with these other lines. So I think he can do okay in that regard with those other players.
You know, Barry's also a good transporter of the puck, whereas Ethan Bear is more of a puck mover, right? So maybe those two individual strengths are part of the reasoning for these three pairings as well.
Yeah, and he also, that's right, Bruce. So when I think of Tyson Barrie, he can also create offense on his own. So when he's out there with one of these other lines, you know, the play might be they could say, listen, Tyson, guys, when you're out there with Barrie, we're going to ask him to create at the blue line. So we want you wingers to fill in for him. Like, make sure you cover for Tyson. He's going to get the green light to attack off the point, but you are going to be asked, high man is going to be asked to fill in for him and cover for him. So maybe, you know, that's always the strategy, of course, is that, you know, when the defenseman attacks, you cover for him. But maybe that will be a little bit more of an emphasis. The top, you know, it's interesting. Tippett's talked about a lack of execution, and he didn't really specify what he was talking about. One of the things I've noticed is they had a tough time. The defenseman, the puck goes back to the point, and they haven't kept it in. And I can't 5 or 6 or 7 times where I'm thinking, like, keep the puck in. Why is that puck coming out? The defenseman's not there for some, you know, it just seems to be happening with regularity. Have you guys noticed that as well? It's been bothering me through this whole series, is this lack of just keeping the puck in the offensive zone by the defenseman.
I have noticed it a couple of occasions. I think the forwards were caught with the D-men changing, and the puck went back to the point, and the D-men just weren't into the play yet. Those are the couple things that I saw. Bruce, how about you?
Yeah, a couple of times, like the puck came back to the blue line and just slid right on out, and you're going, where's the D-man? He's either making a change or else he's Adam Larson and he's out at center for some reason. Happened at least once that I was, what are you doing out there? But cycling the puck is the Oilers' strength, and I think that's what, you know, especially that first line, man, they can just pass until they, you know, and be very patient around the perimeter all the way to the blue line and around the, you know, all around the boards. And it sometimes takes them. I mean, we've seen sometimes this year, David and Kurt, where it's taken close to a minute for them to finally produce the killer pass and shot from the slot after, you know, lengthy possessions. I do think Bear will be able to hold his own in that, although I don't think he jumps into the cycle in the same way as Barrie does. From the other hand, David, you were talking about Barry's play. You know, when he plays with the bottom line, my observation is that Barrie creates offense at both ends, which is half good. And the checking line, whose first task is to keep Winnipeg off the scoreboard, and then, oh yeah, we're giving you Tyson Barrie to play with while you're tasked with that. And so it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for them. And as you say, covering off for him is going to be key to that. I mean, you don't want to take Barry's strengths away from him in this process either. You don't want him to say, okay, Tyson, you're a third pairing. We want you to be Adam Larson tonight, because he ain't going to do that. So you better let him be Tyson Barrie within the new framework. At least give him some room to impose his own significant skills on the game.
The movement of Barrie is interesting because, like, it changes the vibe of that top 5 unit quite a bit. And we've all been hoping, I think, to see like that minute long, hold the puck, 20, 30 passes, hold the puck in the Jets' end by the top line, which we saw a number of times this year. But maybe in the playoffs, that's the wrong thing to hope for. And change it just because the defense is tighter and they're just not going to let you wheel and deal with the puck no matter what in the offensive zone like that. So maybe this is with Bear, he's a bit more of a direct player. The puck comes back to Ethan Bear. He's going to make a quick, simple pass, or he's going to put the puck on net. And maybe that's what they want, actually, a little bit more of. And to think about that for the top line players as well, for McDavid and Draisaitl. Okay, you two simplify it as well. Don't look. The whole play is look for the puck at the net and get the rebound, because no one's more capable of draining those rebound shots than you, Leon, and you, Connor. So we don't want you to, cycle when you can. When it's there, take it. But put the puck back to Ethan. He's going to get it on net. Go for the net. And that's how you're going to get a goal, you guys, and get off the schneid here, which is, honestly, this is the crucial thing. McDavid and Draisaitl have got to score some goals in this game or they're not going to win. And maybe that's a part of the thinking as well of moving Ethan Bear up, is it's actually going to lead to more goals from that top 5-man unit.
Well, it won't lead to less goals, will it?
No, it will not.
I mean, I guess they did get the goal in game one. Puljujärvi from Barrie and Nurse was the scoring play, and I think all 5 players were actually involved in that goal. But that's been the exception to the rule at this point. It's been,
and it was a rebound shot, right? Like that's.
Yes is good at cashing rebounds. I mean, you talk about Connor or Leon putting home the rebounds. That's Puljujärvi's scored a number of his goals over the course of his career on just barging to the net front and banging them home, and that's how he got that one basically.
Here from Mark Simpson, I do like the changes, though. It at least shows a sense of urgency by the coaching staff. They had to do something.
Yep.
Yeah, they did have to do something, and I other than the putting together that smaller line in a prominent place in game 2, and not going with the 88% line at some point here, I don't have much to say. I think the coaching staff has made the right calls.
Well,
the big issue with them.
The 81% solution that you like, David, in truth, they played something like 140 minutes together all year. So, they were successful. They got 13 goals in that time, which is great. But it's a fairly small sample size compared to what we had last year with the Dynamite line, which was, I think, 30 goals to 9, I think it was. And so easily more than double the time together, where they were a proven commodity, whereas McDavid, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, they would play a shift here and there after a penalty kill. I don't know how many full games they played together. And let's face it, Yamamoto has lost the net. He hasn't been able to produce much offensively for a long time now. And whereas Yessa's just scoring. Like, he's been putting up good numbers for a while. I think this is Edmonton's 3 best forwards that they stack in that line. And it's a gamble in that if they don't score, as they didn't in the last game, the Oilers are in huge trouble. But I would put money on them scoring. They're going to score most games, especially as a trio. So that's they need to have a big game tonight. That threesome.
That has to be Dave's thinking, right? Which is, he knows their backs are against the wall. He knows they have to win tonight or the series is all but over. Beat my best line. That has to be a part of their thinking.
Yeah, and I don't really, other than like this, like the size issue thing, like I get the thinking, and the only reason you'd go with the Yamamoto, McDavid, Draisaitl trio is because, as Bruce suggested, it was a small sample size, but it was 13 goals for, 3 against, and you'd then move around some of the size in the lineup. But I think that 4th line can hold its own. I'm not that worried about it. I'm more worried about the 2nd line, and this top line is 3 really fine hockey players. Jesse Puljujärvi has changed the equation for both his own careers and for the Edmonton Oilers going forward. And I don't want to get into talk about next year yet, so we won't do that. But let's talk about tonight. You're right. This is going to be a very tough line for the Winnipeg Jets to stop. And I am expecting just a smoking game from Connor McDavid. I think we're going to see. We already saw it from Draisaitl last game, him bring his
Mhm.
A game, and I think from Connor McDavid we are going to see that tonight. Like it's going to be a smoke show.
I thought McDavid was real good in sort of the back half of the game the other night. I was getting a little bit frustrated with him as a fan, sort of in the late in the first period and early in the second. And then all of a sudden he started beating guys and taking place, uh, making creative plays and good passes. And that line was largely, in, in control in the offensive zone. And I thought he was fine and really starting to feel it. And he just needs to keep feeling it and start doing what he does best, which is uh, create goals.
Final thoughts, Kurt? Any final thoughts here?
This is for all the mustard. It's especially with the back-to-back game coming. If you lose tonight, the incline of that hill goes up steeply. They got to find a way to pull a W out tonight. Have to.
Bruce?
Yep, need another big game from Mike Smith, who we didn't talk a whole lot about because
Yeah.
he's become such a constant now in the Oilers net. He's the one, and he needs to come up big and uh, carry on with his strong skill of moving the puck and getting it moving north a lot, but also making those big saves. And the wild card in all this is stopping Nick Ehlers, who really changes the equation for Winnipeg and gives them, dangerous players really on three lines. That it's not just how does Winnipeg deal with Oilers' big line, but what kind of damage can they do against the rest of the troops? And so, from Winnipeg's point of view, this is a huge opportunity for them uh, to to really seize control of the series. And with home ice and last change, they're in pretty good position. I do think the Oilers have overall the better team, but it's close and it's they're coming from a disadvantaged position, but it's backs to the wall time, as you say.
And the start will be key. They can't chase this one.
Yeah, I hope that the first shift or one of the first shifts of the game sees. I've been criticizing Tyson Barrie, but he could be the hero tonight quite easily because his attacking play is outstanding. He is a top notch NHL attacking defenseman. So I'm hoping that the first goal is Tyson Barrie legs of a Winnipeg defender, which goes in off Zack Kassian's butt into the Winnipeg net. That would be the hockey gourds evening things up, and we could use that, and so could the Edmonton Oilers. That would be a little bit of justice on the ice tonight. I hope, and I think this lineup screams that is the tactic. They've realized they're not going to score off the rush with a team that's packing the neutral zone and packing the slot. They're not scoring off the rush too much. They're not even scoring off cross seam, shredding passes through the attacking zone at even strength. They are going to be scoring tonight by crashing the net, putting pucks on net, and crashing the net. That's what this lineup screams out to me. That's the strategy, and I think that's a good. When your plan A hasn't worked, good plan B. Good plan B.
Got to forecheck him. If the Jets are featuring slow defensemen who are standing up on the blue line, get the puck behind them, flood the zone, win the puck, make some hard play at the net or pass towards the net, and try and create something quickly off of turnovers and one races.
All right, some of the from Flipper Do 22. He says, "Let's get ready for the virtual fist pumps." I'd say it's time to sign off with a virtual fist bump. Are you guys ready? Let's do this. Oilers.
Go Oilers.
Go Oilers. All right. Big game tonight. Thanks, guys, for talking. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.